Hello, I'm Kenneth Kinney, and welcome to another episode of An Education That Works, where every week Victory University profiles leaders in our community who've gone on to achieve phenomenal success in their careers after earning a college degree. Well, today's guest started with a background in finance and banking, achieved phenomenal success running a company, but he's gone on to since mastering information technology. Michael Drake is the chairman, founder, and CEO of masterIT, a company that's not only making a tremendous difference in the Memphis community, but in the information technology sector all over. So join me now as we get some great information from Michael on his technical secrets to success on another episode of An Education That Works. All right, so hello and welcome to another episode of An Education That Works. I'm here with Michael Drake, who's the founder and CEO of masterIT. Michael, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Great to be with you, Ken.
So tell us a little bit about your own educational background and how you got to where you are today. I mean, we're in this beautiful conference room. You got a beautiful facility here, but you've built an impressive career. Tell me about your background.
Well, thank you. It's not exactly a straight line.
Sure.
I'm a graduate of then Memphis State, University of Memphis. I graduated with a degree in finance and went into business. I was a banker originally. But back in the late 80s when I came out of school, there was a banking crisis, not unlike what we've seen recently, but it was with the savings and loans. So I went to work for the government, which was the RTC, the Resolution Trust Corp, actually putting to bed insolvent savings and loans. And I was a crisis manager. And to make a long story short, that's how I got back to Memphis and got into technology. But maybe if I back up a little bit and tell you, when I was in school, I was at the University of Memphis, and I had one professor. His name was Wayne Pyatt, and a great guy. And he taught money and banking. He was a former banker. And it literally changed my life. That one class made me decide to change careers.
What was it about?
Well, it's strictly about money and banking and how.
Well, what was it about the class, I guess?
Well, I think it was really more about him and
sure.
how well he connected and how he made business really real for me. Actually, at the time, I was a pre-med major, and I was a business minor because I wanted to be a better businessman as well as a physician. But he really made it real for me and made business very personal, and it really felt like it was my calling. So from that point, I decided to follow it.
Well, how did you get from banking to, I guess, tell us a little bit about the IT services world? I mean, we come from similar environments.
Right.
Getting from there to opening up a business as beautiful and successful as this is.
Well, it was about a 20-year overnight success story, I guess.
Yeah.
I came back to Memphis, and I went to work for a company called Econocom USA, which is a very storied company in Memphis. A lot of people had worked there, been a very successful company. And if you go back to the mid-'80s, that's when the PC changed everything. And prior to that, they were really in the mainframe and mid-range business of IBM-type equipment. And so the world changed. And it changed the economics of the way that they did business, and it caused them to have to restructure the company. So being a crisis management guy, I was recruited to come back to Memphis to help restructure the company, and we did that, and lo and behold, I came out of that actually leading the effort to rebuild the company. And we were owned by a French parent, publicly traded company, so I had the opportunity to travel the world and every quarter go to France and do business reviews and really intermingle with a lot of different cultures all over the world in IT. And so if you really think about the progression of what happened in technology, we went from the mainframe to the mini to the PC to now what we carry, in our hands, next generation mobile and tablet. And so at the time in the late 90s, there was a new way of doing business called managed services, whereby small and medium businesses could actually outsource their IT function the way that big businesses did. And the culmination of the perfect storm for that was you had the ubiquity of the internet.
Right.
So you had these very fast broadband connections that would allow people to do things remotely. You had the tool sets, the software that were able to make people do things at a fast pace at a small business price. And then finally, if you think about it, really over the last 10 years of the different, really, I guess, financial crises that we've seen, businesses were really starting to look at their P&Ls. What were they spending money on, particularly in IT, because it's such a big expense, and where were they getting a return? and IT was one of those. So long story short, I had the opportunity to do the due diligence on the acquisition of a company like this in Belgium in the early 2000s. And it was like I was hit by lightning. I don't know if you've ever had that experience in your career, but literally when I walked in this place in Brussels, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. And this is what I had trained, this is what my team had trained for the last 20 years. So we ended up buying that company. We did the due diligence and acquired it, and I came back to Memphis, and I had a very small budget to start the same activity in the United States. And basically, we couldn't agree, or I couldn't agree with the chairman, who's still my mentor today. His name is Jean-Louis Bouchard. Couldn't agree on the tool sets, the go-to-market strategy, pricing. The tools that we had to use were 4,000 miles away, and culture was different. So he said, Mike, now's a good time after 15 years with the group. If you want to put your big boy entrepreneur pants on, you have my blessing, and any intellectual property that we've developed together, you're free to do that. So he did me a great favor in really launching my entrepreneurial career at age 43. That's how it began. And I have a partner, his name is Gary Wiseman. Similar background, he came out of the corporate world but really wanted to be an entrepreneur. He already had his own business. So we merged our companies together, and that formed masterIT 8 years ago. And we've been very blessed to now.
Well, what was your degree in?
Finance.
Finance. So were you I'm going to say sort of a STEM technology type of advocate then? I mean, obviously you're in more, that was more of a ones and zeros math kind of study than it necessarily was technology driven, mainly because the new technologies are in the infancies today. They're born every day.
Right.
You look at COBOL, and we're talking the 50s. I mean, there wasn't as many new technologies then. I know Java started in the early 90s. But was that something that piqued your interest early?
It might surprise you, but I'm not a technologist at all. I'm a business guy. And I guess in having run Econocom USA, I certainly saw how to link technology to business.
Sure.
And that I saw, even in our own company, a business leader would have a great idea from a business perspective, but wouldn't think until the end of the process to ask, what does technology need to do to support that? And as we've seen in the last several years, technology has everything to do with business initiative. So I think I had just that advantage. And that's why when I started the company, not being a screwdriver turner, I had to go find the delivery side of the business. And that's why Gary and I got together. And that's why he runs the delivery side of the business, and I'm responsible for everything else.
Getting a college degree is good for broadening our knowledge. So because when you go into college, you have a chance to take different classes. So you can take something like psychology or something like arts, which I did when I was an undergraduate. So I think it gives a good opportunities to broaden our knowledge. And also, it's a good time to develop our potentials and interests. So by taking different classes, you begin to have a deeper sense of what a specific field is about, and then you may get interested in that particular field. So I enjoy being a professor because I like to interact with students and share my knowledge with my students and help them to really understand math. And it's a delight to see that they learn. While they struggle, but they keep trying and then they learn. I think that's what I enjoy.
Talk about your own work experience while you were in school. So many students that we have today, and you see this more in the market every day, are not just the traditional 18 to 22-year-olds that go through a 4-year school. I mean, I think most people think of that as college and universities, that's prevalent today. But what we see are a lot of people who, for whatever reason, get out and life gets in the way and they have to work, or they come back when they're 45 or 50 to complete that degree, or 30 or any age.
Right.
But everybody has a different perspective of what school life is like. So what
Right.
was that for you when you were in school?
Sure. Well, again, it wasn't a straight line. And when I started, as I said, I was a pre-med major, so I was a biology major.
Wow.
But rather than a chemistry minor, I was a business minor, so that was a little unusual. I also played golf, and my dream was to be a professional golfer. And I've got a theory in life that we all play sport as long as we can.
Right.
Until we have to go to work.
Right.
And so I had the opportunity to walk on the golf team at the University of California at Irvine, which I did, but I found out very quickly I didn't have the talent to play major college golf. So I came back to Memphis.
So you weren't Tiger Drake?
No, I was not. I was not. And so I came back and I started over, basically, and I changed my major to business. And I came from a very middle-class background, so I had to work my way through school. And I probably worked on average 30, 35 hours a week for probably 5 years. It took me 5.5 years to actually graduate. But I think the beauty of that is in working, I met so many people. I worked in retail. I worked at Oak Hall, which is a Memphis clothing store from 1859. So many different types of people came through there, and I had the opportunity to mix with those people and learn from them, and it really helped me in terms of customer service and serve as our company's fourth and foundational core value. I learned everything from that experience in working there. So for me, the education was not just in the classroom. I was able to, while I was learning business, actually apply it in my part-time job, and it really created a work ethic where I had a limited amount of time to study, and I had to make that count. And when I was working, I had to make that count as well. So it really gave me a good foundation that I wouldn't trade the world for.
Well, when we talk about an education that works, it's typically about the things that help prepare people for a career. And you and I briefly had this discussion before in regards to Christian faith and what that means as far as Christian education.
Sure.
Working at Victory, we're a Christian school. What importance do you give that? Because you've talked a little bit about how much a class affected you, and a great teacher.
Correct.
You've talked a little bit about what your work experience, going up helped make you. But talk about a little bit about your opinion, I guess, on how Christian education, what you feel that role is and how it helped you.
Sure. Well, I was very fortunate in growing up. My grandparents made sure that I had a private education here in Memphis, and all the schools I went to were Christian schools. So I had a biblical background. And for me, entering the real world as a college student, I already had a Christian worldview. And that really influenced me because, as you know, we're no better than the people that we surround ourselves with. And so it gave me the opportunity, A, to be challenged in my faith, but B, to have a foundation in that to where I could always draw upon that and see the world and see education from a Christian view. And it really kind of opened the world up to me, and we're not born with ethics per se. We learn
Right,
those.
sure.
And so it gave me the opportunity, as any young person would in college or in business, to be tested and to actually have a measuring stick to measure against. And so, again, I wouldn't trade that for the world either.
Well, you took an active role when Victory was Crichton, being part of our board. You've got that history. And you take an active role now with some of your other mentor programs. Why do you think that's important, and how do you think that can help students go forward in their career? You're giving back to the community by doing that, and we all needed that when we were coming out of school.
Sure. Well, first of all, I feel called to do it. It's just part of my personal life and my calling. But I really wish I would have had somebody as a mentor when I was going through college, not to give me the answers, because
Sure.
as I tell the proteges that we work with, we make mistakes. I make mistakes every day. And I would have loved to have seen somebody in action that would admit that and say, I don't have all the answers, but when I make a mistake, I try to learn from it, and when I fail, I try to fail forward. Other things, such when you're just coming into the business world, just to understand how to take a business lunch. how to behave in a meeting, how to dress, how to communicate with different levels of people. So, I feel it's very important for young people to understand that. I wish I would have had it, and the young people that I work with today are so much brighter than I was when I went through. They really inspire me. I get a lot more out of mentoring, believe it or not, I think, than the protege gets. Because, here I am in a technology environment. I'm in my 50s, and most of the people, as you see, that we work with here are very young. And there's a real cultural and age difference, and so it keeps me young, and it keeps me plugged in to what they think about, to what they think is important, and primarily what motivates them. Because what motivates them is different than what motivates me. And if I can better understand that in a business setting, I can be a better leader and a better manager in our business as well.
Well, and I think we hear reference millennials so often, and that's like some of the employees you've got out there. How do you think the lessons you've learned can help them become more productive, or is it? Do you think it's been you teaching them more, or them teaching you more now that they're in the workplace, outside of just the mentoring that you do for school, but to help them become better producers at masterIT?
Well, I hope that it's 100% on both sides. I would add to millennials digital natives. Because you and I didn't grow up with a smartphone or a tablet attached to our hand. And in our world, our second core value is communicate. And as you know, with technology, you can't over-communicate enough. And we struggle with that sometimes. And so that's what I try to teach. And I'll say this, that old school values never go out of style. We talk a whole lot about people who text and email. Of course, email is archaic now. Or Instagram, those types of things. But just the mere fact of what you and I are doing, sitting down face to face, eyeball to eyeball, having a conversation, to me that is the most intimate form of communication. And whenever you've got a problem or something to figure out, to me it's just so much better, A, to pick up the phone, or B, even better, to be able to talk face to face to resolve things, or to work out a problem, or to innovate, or to create something new. So sometimes they think I'm crazy when I say that, but it's a process to go through, and I'm just sharing what has worked for us and certainly what works for other people.
To further my education in my field, which is business, and to enhance my social caliber in society. I feel that school is very important for everyone because with or without an education, you can get much further with one, and I feel like you have more opportunities when you go to college and graduate and get a degree. So that's why I'm going to college. Yeah, I love doing community service. I love helping people, and my favorite community service job that we had here was going to feed at the homeless shelter. I mean, it's great to do community service, but when you can actually see the people that you're helping and talk to them one-on-one, and not so that they'll see your face, just so that you can see them and be thankful that, for what you have, because everybody doesn't have it as well as you do. So I really enjoy service projects. What I like most about being at Victory is the fact that we are so much of a family. Like, it's really family oriented. It's small. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody by name pretty much. The teams are like, they become your brothers and sisters. They become they may become closer than relatives sometimes, but that's what I love about Victory. It's just a small community.
What kind of advice do you give your own children as to what kind of things to study and learn, and so that they can go be successful?
Well, it might sound cliche, and I heard Laurie Tucker say it on your show as well, and I tell everybody this: follow your passion. Or, as James Campbell said, follow your bliss. So I tell her, whatever makes you happy, follow that, because real wealth and real happiness will come from that. I really believe if you get that foundational core correct, all things will fall underneath that. Because without passion, it's really hard to have the energy to really be disciplined, because there is no shortcut in business or in life. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So that's what I tell her, is it matters not to me what you do, only that you do what makes you happy and where you feel God has called you. that you're fulfilling that calling. There's a great book by Os Guinness. He was the heir to the Guinness beer fortune. He kind of renounced that, and he's a theologian in England. And he wrote a book called The Call. And he said that there's one thing worse than not hearing your call, because everybody does hear a call. It's hearing your call and not accepting it. Because if you don't, then you'll spend the rest of your life regretting
Absolutely.
or medicating or self-medicating why you didn't do that.
Well, you're also very involved. I met you through some community activities. How is benefiting the community and your work within the community? How do you do that differently than you would have done? A lot of times students now are looking for more community involvement even while they're in school.
Right.
And we all get to a place in your career, just like we do with passion, and maybe it's running a nonprofit.
Right.
But there is a point towards helping people in the community. Where is your place in that, and what inspires you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, you've heard the term work-life balance.
Right.
I really don't believe in that. I believe in work-life integration.
Sure.
And that we're all part of a community. And if you go back to what we talked about in mentoring, the one thing that we're really trying to accomplish in the MILE program or other mentor-protege programs that I see is taking bright young people and certainly giving them the advantages maybe that we didn't have, when we went through. But there's a somewhat of a benevolent, selfish motive in that, and that is making connections with the community,
Right.
so that when they begin their career, they don't feel like they have to go to Dallas or Atlanta or somewhere else. And we all know that it's a very important part of a human being's existence that not only that they have a good education and that they find a good job, but they get plugged in into community
So true.
events or community activities that spur a passion in them as well. And so to me, it's not so much giving back. I mean, I'm just part of this community, and this community has given me so much. It's just part of what we do. And we try to teach that here, and we try to show the students that we mentor the same thing.
Well, and that's a very good point. There are different ways of giving back, and I constantly see people like you that are able to connect interns that work here, and they take those career steps that advance them 5 to 10 years with the relationships they built, not necessarily trolling through some of the skills that they would have to acquire. It helps them accelerate that learning path
Right.
tremendously.
And I would just encourage anyone who's thinking about mentoring or becoming a protege or asking somebody to be a mentor is everyone has something to give.
Absolutely.
It could be something as simple as a simple word or encouragement, or probably more importantly, just listening. Just
Sure.
listening to somebody. We tell our proteges, I'm not your parent and I'm not your professor, but I'm here to listen to what you want. I'm here to ask you what you want, which is a hard question to answer, but then to help you lifelong achieve that.
Right. Well, when you look now at where colleges and universities are compared to where we were both in school,
Right.
what advice would you give to colleges and universities today to help develop better leaders for tomorrow?
Well, number one, I think if they can get them involved with the business community, I think that's very, very important to begin to create those connections. If they can work really hard to help create internships, and I would say internships with a purpose, with
Right.
structure and framework, because certainly there are businesses out there that rely upon internships, but there are a lot that want to get involved that just don't really know what to do or how to do it. So if they could have some type of a structure, almost a plug-and-play program where they can overlay whatever the college or university's program is to help them plug a student into their business, I think that would be very, very helpful.
So where do you see STEM technologies and how colleges and universities are teaching those? Where do you see what additional things they can bring to help students? Because there are still a lot of engineering jobs that need to get filled.
Right.
Every employer says they need more skilled laborers, but every person that I ever talk to who's in your role talks about communication skills as being the main thing that they end up relying on, writing skills like you talked about.
Right. Well, first of all, I mean, technology changes so rapidly that to be wrapped around the axle around a particular type of technology or application could be dangerous. So, in my own experience, having a degree in finance, I was a numbers guy. So that was a good foundation to be able to navigate through
Right.
business and be able to look at problems from a business perspective, and then to be able to communicate. Again, I told you my work background, I was face to face with a lot of people. I was in a service type business where I had to communicate. So I would encourage, universities, colleges to create some type of a program where if they could, I remember when I was at the University of California at Irvine, it was great. There was a semester that a student had to spend doing 2 different internships in 2 different types of businesses. So to expose people to different types of industries, because as you and I know,
Good point.
even within the similar industry, cultures within companies are different.
Right.
So I think to get a well-rounded experience, I think it would be great to work in maybe a big company and a small company, or to work, in 2 maybe polar opposite ends of the same industry, to get a real feel. But again, to put the student face to face with the real world, I think that's where business and education can really cooperate.
What kind of things is masterIT? What is in your own career outlook? You've built this company up and done a lot of things. Where do you see your own career going now?
Well,
What are your big goals, I guess?
yeah, so first of all, building the company where we are, we're a managed service provider. So in essence, we're the IT department for the 20 to 500 person company, the small and medium business. We help manage people and devices. Where we're going from that is we're getting ready to go from people and devices to managing information. We have this explosion of big data. Well, what do we now do with that data? How do we mine that? How do we make better business decisions from that? So I think medium term, you'll see more business intelligence coming out of masterIT and how we help our clients navigate that to be more successful. In terms of me personally, I still think of myself as a young guy. This business all over the world, quite frankly, is very fragmented. It's pretty new in terms of managed services for the small and medium business. There's no dominant player in the Mid-South, and there's no dominant provider really in the United States. So it's still a pretty big green field. So we have some, I would say, cautiously optimistic growth targets to hit. I like building things. I like seeing people develop in their careers. Again, I started this company not because I wanted to be a technologist. I really felt God called me to build something to help and watch people develop. And that's what we're doing. And I'm excited to do that every day. So I'm excited for the near and the long-term future.
Well, I appreciate from a technology perspective in particular what you're doing. I know the students and interns that you bring in appreciate what you're doing for them and their career paths, and I appreciate you being on Education That Works.
My pleasure. Thank you. Great to be with you.
So if you or anyone you know is inspired by today's information, if you want to earn a college degree, or if you simply want to help change our world, then I urge you today to go to aneducationnetworks.com. On behalf of Victory University, thank you for An Education That Works.